Well, hi Jerry.
Hi.
Thanks, thanks for helping me with my project.
My pleasure.
So, did you know that we're planning to go to the moon in 2024?
I was not aware of any other trips to the moon, no.
And what do you think about that?
Well, if they can get there this time, I think it's a good deal.
I know we've talked about this before, and you think this maybe actually be the first time we would be going to the
Me
moon.
personally, yes, I believe this will be. If they make it this time, I personally believe it'll be the first time.
Now, a lot of people saw like the the Saturn V launch with the astronauts in it. There was like the Apollo 8 trip that went around the moon, didn't actually land, and they took that picture of Earth, it's the famous Earthrise photo. So do you think like all of those were real?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I believe they've gone. I just don't believe. In 1969, me and my grandfather sat in his living room and watched him. And when I came in, he said, "They're on the moon," and so we sat there and watched. I'm a skeptic, and I believe very little what the United States of America's government. I believe very little what they say. And a friend of mine, his wife did a research paper at college about did they really go to the moon.
Right.
And I read that, and she and I are convinced they did not go to the moon. So,
Do you remember the name of the research paper? Or?
I have no idea. I barely remember her name. Ashley, I think. Ashley Dillard was her name.
Ashley Dillard?
Yeah, that was her name.
I have to look that up. So you think we went around the moon but not actually landed?
I believe that's possible.
Okay.
Because you see the movie Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks, all that. Okay.
Right.
That was pretty factual, And they actually went around the moon. I believe that happened because I lived in an area where some of those astronauts lived, and a friend of mine, John Choate, did plumbing work on their house, and he met them, so he said they were real guys, they were real people, so yeah, I believe they could have went around the moon. And now landing on it, that's a different matter.
Now, I guess, what do you think makes it so much harder to land on the moon versus going around the moon?
Well, you got a lot of things to consider there. Landing, getting out, walking around, and then getting off the moon. I just don't think that their technology. I mean, they use slide rules, stuff like that. I don't think they had the. I don't think they had the ability to do it in 1969. Okay, I believe that. My theory is that the government did that to get everybody excited about space, so they could spend billions and trillions of dollars on putting satellites in outer space. That's my belief. Now, crazy? I may be.
Well, and we've gotten a lot of benefit out of those satellites.
Oh yes, that I don't have a thing against that.
The weather satellites,
Right.
GPS,
Yeah. Great benefits.
TV, radio.
But great benefits. And mine and your generation, we see that and know that. But my old grandpa's generation, that was a different matter.
Yeah, he didn't exactly have an iPhone that told him step by step how to get from
Right.
here to there.
Yeah. My old grandpa's generation, that was a different matter.
But so us going back to the moon, it probably cost an additional $30 billion over what we currently spend on NASA, like total. I mean, do you think that's worth it, or do you think, like us going back, or us going to the moon in 2024?
Yeah, I believe it is because give a lot of people a lot of jobs, create a lot of jobs, and taxes are going to stay high and go up anyway. They're gonna find someplace to spend our tax money, you know. So yeah, I think it's worth it. I think we can reap some great benefits out of it. If I remember right, we reap some great benefits out of the space station and stuff like that. You know, and, stuff, with medicine and something, we benefited from the space station. So yeah, I wouldn't be against spending the money.
I interviewed one person and asked him that question. He's like, gave an answer very similar to what you said about, you know, the government waste a lot of money.
Yeah.
Rather than like spend on something that's inspirational than, you know, a bridge in the middle of nowhere that nobody cares about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I believe that would be a good use of tax dollars.
So, do you think we have the capability to actually get on the moon in 5 years, or?
Now I do.
Okay.
See, because now we got computers we didn't have then. We got technology we didn't have then. So, yeah, I believe that here, how many years later? 30-something years later, yeah.
50.
50?
Yeah,
50?
50.
Lord. Yeah, I believe the technology is there now. I believe personally that mankind can accomplish and do anything that he sets his mind to. Okay? And I believe that the intelligence and technology of mankind now there's probably not much man can't do.
And, you know, back in 1969, I think the world's population was estimated to be about 3 billion people, or 3.5 billion, something like that. Now it's estimated to be like 7 something. So we have twice the number of brains on this planet.
Right, exactly.
And those brains are connected extremely well. I mean, in the sense that, I mean, you can send an email literally to anybody in the world.
Right.
You can have a video conference across the world.
Yeah.
I think everybody in the world gets food. I mean, like, there's no reason that I can see that would keep people from actually getting food from the standpoint of actually growing the food. There's distribution issues.
Yeah.
You know, medical care could be more widely available, but so you have all this thing, but it doesn't seem like humanity necessarily is really reaped the benefits of this increased capacity. It's almost like people have the potential to be smarter, but it feels like in some ways we're like dumber.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And I was wondering why you think that is, or what can be done to change it.
Well, in our educational system, okay, they have stopped educating the children and started indoctrinating them. Okay, a teacher shouldn't stand up in class and talk about who to vote for president. A teacher should stand in front of the class and say 2 + 2 is 4. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I believe that we have made the mistake in this. I hate that my kids had grandkids because they're going to grow up right up into this, indoctrinating the kids to a way of thinking instead of just educating them. It don't take a lot of money to teach a child 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of money to change their way of thinking about something.
Well, and also I feel like a lot of education is very theoretical. I mean, kids go into schools, they get worksheets, and it's like, hey, read this, you know, do these math problems, but they're not actually tied to solving real world problems.
Oh, exactly, yes. Lord knows how much did we take in high school that we hadn't heard since we left high school.
Right? But I almost think that we'd do better off if kids in school actually worked on real projects, and then everything they learned was tied to that project. Either
That would be a good idea. Yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah.
building a building, making a car, you know, trying to create an irrigation system, running a farm.
Yeah. Yeah, there used to be vocational programs like that, I thought. Yeah. Like when I was in high school, we had auto shop, wood shop, you know, that metal shop, all that stuff, you know, where do that. I don't even know if they do that anymore.
I know some schools do, like my younger son's school, they have automotive mechanic school. They have
Good.
beautician and
Right.
and nail tech, and then they have some organizations inside the school that are dedicated, like people who want to go into health services
Right.
or things like that. So they have a little bit of that, but it's separate and distinct from the core classes. So, yeah.
I believe that, like I said earlier, the human race wants to do something bad enough and gets enough involved. God said in the Bible in Genesis chapter 6 says man is one, and anything they attempt to do, they'll be able to do it. That's when he split them up by language at the Tower of Babel. But God himself said, whatever, man is one, and whatever he puts his mind to do, he can do it. I believe that.
I always found that story to be a little disturbing because it seemed like that God was really working against the interest of people. I mean, you know, he essentially split them apart.
The interest of people has always been against God. God, when Noah came off the ark with his 3 sons, he told them, multiply and replenish the earth. They went to a place called Shinar, found everything they needed to make one world community, and they all stayed right there. And God came down and saw what was happening. That, like I said, they're all one mind, so he confounded their language to split them up, to cover the earth, to replenish the earth, so they'd go their separate ways. Because they weren't going their separate ways. They were just, but yeah, man's mind has always been against God, yeah, with few exceptions.
So what you're saying is that don't put all your eggs in one basket by splitting up people according to language and making them sort of spread out. Essentially, was better in the long term.
Well, it accomplished God's plan. God's plan was that the earth be replenished, okay? I don't think it was a question of good or bad either way. It was against God's plan for them to stay one place, one language. And by confounding their language and splitting it up, it accomplished God's plan of the earth being replenished. That's what that was.
Now, it's interesting, right? Because, you know, science has been really bad for the ego of man. We started out thinking that this was it, the earth was flat, you know, this is the entire world. And then over time we realized, oh, the earth was round, but we thought everything rotated around the earth. And then at some point we realized that not everything rotates around the earth actually rotates around the sun. And then we learned that there's like all these other stars with all these other planets. And, you know, and as you keep learning more and more about the universe, you realize how big the universe is and how minuscule we are.
Right.
And you mentioned that, you know, God wanted humanity to spread out across the earth. I was wondering if that extended one level further, like, would that also mean extending out into the rest of the solar system, or do you see a key distinction between the two?
No, okay. I believe there's possibility that there's life on other planets, okay? Like water and plants and stuff like that. I believe man is exclusive to this planet, okay? Man. And I don't believe in aliens. Let me tell you why I don't believe in aliens, okay? We hear about alien abductions.
Yep.
Have you noticed that only white people get abducted by aliens?
Is that so?
You never hear of a black person or a Hispanic person or German person getting. It's always an American white person got abducted.
That's interesting. So that is interesting. I've never really thought about that. I've never heard of UFO stories from outside of the U.S.
Exactly. Yes.
But I mean.
But now let me say this.
Yeah.
I, being a Christian, I believe that there's a spiritual realm out there, where there's an entity out there. God operates, spirit, and good and bad spirits operate and all that. I believe that,
Right.
and I believe. I heard a preacher say one time he believed in UFOs because he just thought that that what people were getting a glimpse of was movement of angelic beings or spirits or something. You know, I can kind of somewhat go with that. But no, I don't believe that aliens came from a planet far, far away down here to, you know, pick some guy out of a trailer park looking over, you know.
Yeah, give him a really fanciful story for him to share at the
Right.
bar.
Yeah.
But actually, I was kind of wondering from a different perspective. You know, there's that story that Jesus told about this landowner that went off on a trip, and he calls 3 of his servants,
Right.
and he gives one of them, I forget the numbers precisely, but one of them like 50 talents of gold, the other one like 20, another one like 10. And he comes back after a long journey, and he's like, hey, I want an accounting of, you know, what y'all did with the money that I entrusted with you. And the guy that got 50 doubled it to 100. And the guy that got 20 doubled it to 40. And the guy that had 10 said, I was so afraid of losing it, I just buried it in the ground, and here's your 10. And the landowner, which I have always interpreted the story as being like God or Jesus, you know, essentially, was really mad at the servant that just buried his coins and said, you know, you didn't do anything with it. I'm going to take it and give it to somebody that knows what to do with it. So I guess, first of all, is that the same way you interpret it, that we're supposed to make the most of what we've been given?
Yeah, we were left here on earth, you know, to do one thing: spread the gospel. And God did divvy out the talents. Okay. All right. My brother, younger than me, is a fantastic guitar player. I'm a mediocre guitar player, but I can sing better than him. So we all have our talents.
Right.
And we are to use our talents to the fullest degree for the spread of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And like, and as the parable teaches very plainly, the landowner represents God coming back, and those that the ones that did good, well done, thy faithful servant, and then the one that hadn't done nothing, he wasn't real happy with life, like you say. Yeah, I interpret that way.
Okay. And you mentioned that we're supposed to like expand the glory of God with our talents, but I was wondering if, coming back to that other point about expanding life around, you know, humanity around the globe, if also, you know, if we have the capability to take humanity and put it on the moon and put it on Mars and the moons of Jupiter and the moons of Saturn, would you think that maybe we have some obligation to go and expand out into the rest of the solar system? Or
no, I don't think we have an obligation to. We may do it out of curiosity and just, you know, for science, and to more or less have something to do. But I don't believe that this planet is about to be overpopulated, like some say. If you drove through West Texas,
and then you got the oceans too.
Yeah.
And also look at Tokyo, able to handle so many people in a small place.
But I have nothing wrong with man. I have nothing against man seeking to do that, and I find nothing in the Bible that tells me any different. Okay, and I read the Bible constantly, and I see nothing in there that would discourage people living on Mars or the moon or whatever. But there's still only one God. It's the way it is. Can't get around that fact. There's one God, whether you live on Venus or Jupiter. I tell the story about when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask permission to go to Jupiter. You know, why you want to go to Jupiter? I want to see what the attraction is, because Cher said, if Donald Trump is elected president, I'm going to move to Jupiter, and I want to go see what the attraction was.
Wow. Well, so have you heard of Elon Musk?
No.
So he founded Tesla. It's an electric car company, but he also has a space company called SpaceX. And his vision is to build a city on Mars. And he's
Okay.
been trying to develop like rockets to take people there. He's actually building them in Boca Chica, Texas, near Brownsville. He's developing a huge rocket factory there. So it's kind of funny. Brownsville could potentially be the gateway into the rest of the solar system,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah. Okay.
kind of unexpected. He has a rocket test facility in McGregor, Texas, so lots of investment in Texas. But I was wondering what you thought about that plan. He wants to essentially create a city on Mars of like 1 million people, with the idea being that, well, several things. One is if something happens on the Earth, we have people still alive. Another thought is, if you create a reason for people to travel between places in space, then eventually the rest of the economy will plug into that, and you'll see a lot more development and lots of other things. But what do you think about that plan?
I don't have nothing against the plan. I just can't wrap my mind around the scope of all that would take. I wouldn't have anything to say against it. If that's what he wants to do with his money, more power to him. But still, like I said, I don't care where you live, there's still one God.
That's true. Now, Jeff Bezos, have you heard of him? He's the founder of Amazon.
Oh, okay, all right.
He also has a space company, but he has a completely different view. His view is that Earth is the absolutely best place in the entire solar system, and
Well, it's the best place we've found yet.
it's the best place we found yet. And we need to essentially protect the Earth
Right.
by taking all those things that we do to hurt the Earth and move them off the Earth. The energy production, the manufacturing, the mining, and essentially preserve the Earth as sort of a garden, light residential, that type of thing.
Well, that's a noble goal
Mm.
and all of that, but people still got to live. That's one big problem I have with some politicians is they don't realize people still got to live. People still got to work and make a living.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm of the mindset that we could do both if we just sit down and agree on a few. I'm in the mindset that could look, his goal could be done, but we have to keep in mind that people still got to work and make a living.
Yeah, and you were talking about how would that coming together and agreeing on it look like? I mean, like, what do you think the process? I mean, how can we do that and keep people employed? I mean, like, what do you think is the secret?
I worked for DuPont Chemical Plant for 30 years, and over the years, I saw DuPont spending millions of dollars on cleaning up pollution and so forth. So, in fact, I worked in the pollution part of the plant for a couple of years, and seen how much money DuPont was spending on cleaning up their water and cleaning up the air and all that. DuPont was spending millions of dollars. And I know supervisor of mine, never forget this, he said, Jerry, you got to spend your last dime on pollution. He said, you got to spend your last dime. And I remember back in the 60s, I would go fishing down in Texas City with my grandfather, and we would cross a particular part of the ship channel over near Galena Park, Texas, and that water was just black, milky and black, and all kinds of black tar and stuff on the bank. It was just terrible. It was just absolutely polluted, and that was in the 60s, and now you drive by there now and it's clean. I know for a fact that the industries along the Houston Ship Channel have done a miraculous job in cleaning up that ship channel in the past 50 years. So I believe it's possible. Okay, it would just be making jobs where they were more economically friendly. Make the cars more economically acceptable. It would take some effort. Man can do it if he'll just do it.
Mm.
But I don't think shutting down a factory in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and building it in Turkey and running it in Turkey instead of Pittsburgh is going to clean up the environment or help the environment in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
It may help the environment in Pittsburgh, but not
Right.
globally.
Globally, it will.
Globally.
Yeah.
It may be worse.
Maybe worse,
because
because they don't have the regulations we got here. Yeah.
Yeah. But you mentioned we could do anything that we put our mind to, that we want to do as a society. And it seems to me like if you look at the youth of today, they're quite happy just sitting in front of the TV, playing video games, not really doing anything.
Well, I have a friend that I worked with for years at DuPont. He made a statement one day. He said, "You know what?" He said, "Me and you, our generation will go down in history as the sorriest generation yet."
Mm.
And I asked him, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Because we have just made it too easy for our kids." And it seems like it's a domino effect that each generation, I want my kids to do better than me. I wanted my kids to have a career and be prosperous and everything, not necessarily work at a plant all their life like I did. So I wanted them to do better. But sometimes we get mixed up with wanting our kids to do better, to do too much for them. Okay? My children, I was regarded as a terrible parent by all of our friends because my children had chores. They had things they did, and they didn't have a choice.
Right.
They did them. No ifs, and or buts about it. And I didn't have to worry about it because their mama was harder than I was. A funny story, if you got time.
I got time.
Okay. It's my youngest daughter, her job was the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And at the time, we didn't have a dishwasher, so she had to wash the dishes. And she was always dropping glasses and breaking glasses.
Oh, so she wouldn't have to clean them.
Well, I don't know if it was rebellion or just being ornery or what it was, but she was always breaking glasses. So every time we would get a gift from somebody, it was a set of glasses, because when they came to our house, we served them in jars and cups, so they thought we needed glasses.
Right.
So finally I had to tell them, no, stop buying glasses. Allie's just going to break them.
They need to be plastic
But
or rubber.
How many she broke, she still was going to do the dishes because we were not going to let her out of it. And this morning, all four of my children got up and went to work. And I believe that is what me and their mama raised them to do. Parents nowadays, kids are tougher than parents nowadays. Kids can outlast a parent nowadays. A kid knows that he can nag a parent until the parent finally says, well, just go do it. Just quit nagging me, just go do it. But back in my day, in your day, we got told no one time and we better go and shut up.
Yeah, or that belt was coming out.
Yeah, but it's not like that. Now, kids are tougher than parents nowadays.
They know how to exploit parents' impatience.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
And we talk about we want our kids to have a better life than we did. And really, I think there's like two components to that, right? It's not necessarily about having an easier life, but having the right strength and capability to manage the life you have. And so you can actually give your kids a better life by one of two ways. Either you make everything easier and they don't need to develop as much skill and capability, or you can focus on developing the skill and capability, and regardless of how life turns out, they're always able to manage it.
Exactly, yes.
And it seems like today we're very much focused on the easier life.
Oh, yeah. Path of least resistance. I'm afraid that to be the case, yeah.
And so, but this is not true globally, right? I mean, if you look at people in the U.S. and Europe, maybe that's true. But if you look at people in like Latin America and Africa
Right.
and places in
Yes.
Asia,
I can see that. Yes.
life is really hard for them.
Right, I can see that.
Yeah, and they're going to be so much able to handle a harder life.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like, from a global perspective, we're really making ourselves more vulnerable.
I can see that. Yeah.
So does it seem like collapse is almost unavoidable for us?
Except one thing. And you got to know this about the American people. If you go back to World War II, they gave Japan the whole West Pacific. And they gave Germany all of Europe, part of Russia, before they lifted one finger. But when Pearl Harbor happened and that pushed the people over that edge, the American people came together, pushed Japan all the way back, sailed into Tokyo Harbor a little over 4 years after Pearl Harbor, and just when they landed in D-Day, just walked across Europe and destroyed the German Empire. So the American people, if they got a problem, they're complacent. But once you push them over that edge, like 9/11, you push them over that edge, then they come together and they become unbeatable. We got the most powerful military in the world. So, yeah, I see what you're saying, and I hope that the problem with the American people, and always has been, is complacency that I see, and I hope that we're not so complacent that we overlook something like what you're describing.
But the American people during World War II, I think the majority of them grew up on farms.
Yes.
And they had chores, and they knew how to fix things, they knew how to operate independently. They were, I get the sense they were very much like, I'm going to take care of myself and my world, I'm going to live and let live. And then, they were pushed into taking a broader perspective from Pearl Harbor. But the American people today, I think the vast majority of them grew up in cities, grew up with very much a pre-packaged life,
Right.
where all they had to do was take this test or complete this essay or make this grade. And I think the character of the American people today is quite a bit different than it was during World War II.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally. But I gotta believe that somewhere along the line, you push it far enough, you'll get a reaction. And when the American people, well, what did that great Japanese general say?
Waking a sleeping tiger.
Waking a sleeping giant.
Giant, yeah.
That's still there. It has to be, okay? Like, I heard a story, man, talking about D-Day, June 6, 1944. And he said they lost 60 Sherman tanks in the invasion. And you thought, oh my God, 60 tanks? And then he said, so you got to remember, the Allies had 56,000 Sherman tanks.
Wow.
So losing 60 didn't sound that bad.
Well, also another thing is during World War II, America was a manufacturing superpower.
Exactly.
We were selling goods all around the world. We knew how to make things.
Yep.
It seems that's less the case today.
I like to keep politics out of things, but I believe President Trump's got the right ideal of bringing this country back to that. And of course, he'll be reelected without any doubt, and then Vice President Pence, who has the same ideas as him, will probably get elected for a term or two. So we've got a few years here where we can, do that, bring that back. Of course, President Trump, he wakes up in the morning and he gets criticized. He can't do anything. But I believe that him being a businessman like he is, instead of a politician, I believe he's slowly turning us back in that direction. Whether or not we make it is yet to be seen.
Well, and I think this pandemic has probably woken up a lot of people to the fact that if you're going to be dependent upon China for all this critical medical infrastructure, you're really leaving yourself vulnerable.
Right.
So
yeah, this epidemic has proved that.
Yeah. If it was safe and affordable, would you have any interest in going into space yourself?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
And
I've only flew twice in my whole lifetime, and I didn't step on an airplane until I was 49 years old.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, his father and son lived in North Carolina, and he invited me to go to North Carolina with him and play golf a week with his father and his brother. And his brother was a doctor. He says, all you got to do is pay for your plane ticket. My brother said he'd cover everything else. I said, okay, great. So I've never flown before. I'm 49 years old, so yeah, let's do that. All right.
Okay.
So it's all planned. We buy the plane ticket. I go over to where he works, get my plane ticket. It's in my pocket. I walk back into our shop. They've got the television on.
Oh no.
2 American airlines have just been flown into the World Trade Centers, and I'm standing there with an American airline ticket in my pocket.
In 2001.
Yeah, in 2001.
Wow.
And I'm going to fly out in 2 weeks. I'm going to be flying from Houston to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Did you still fly?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the first question my wife asked me there about, you still going? You still going?
Uh-huh.
I said, number one, I've made up my mind. And I've never been this close before to flying. So I'm going to make myself do it.
Okay.
Plus, I figure that's the safest time to fly.
Right, everybody's focused on safety.
Yeah. And that airline we flew to DFW in Dallas, and then we left there and flew to Charlotte. And on that flight there was like 6 people on that whole big airplane. And so, yeah, we had a great flight. I really enjoyed it. So no, I don't fly. I wouldn't go to outer space. I lived 68 years right here in Texas, and I plan on dying right here in Texas. Now, I've got children that would probably jump at the opportunity, but I wouldn't.
It's really interesting how people answer that question. I think everybody who doesn't fly probably would have no interest in going into space.
Right.
But I've seen some generational things. I asked a mother and daughter this question about 2 months ago. The daughter was like 18, the mother was probably 40. And the mother was like, yes, absolutely. And the daughter's like, no, I don't think so. And the mother was surprised to hear that from her daughter.
Well, I'll tell you, my ex-wife, the mother of my children, I believe personally she'd jump at the chance.
Okay.
Yeah, she's that guy. I think she would go. I wouldn't, but I think she would.
Wow. Well, anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, I've enjoyed this conversation. Thank you. It was really nice.
I really appreciate you taking time out to share your thoughts with me.
My pleasure.